You are watching What's Happening Minnesota with the Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder. This episode is brought to you by the Morrow Group, a boutique integrated marketing group who specializes in executive and talent visibility. This episode is also brought to you by Creator Space, where their motto is just begin. We are joined here today with Natalie Morrow, local CEO and owner of the Morrow Group, the Twin Cities Black Film Festival, and Black Fashion Week, Minnesota. Natalie, thank you so much for joining us today. For the few of us who may not be familiar with you, can you please let us know who you are and the impact that you bring to the Twin Cities?
Thank you so much for having me. Natalie Morrow. So Natalie Morrow is a local CEO, founder. My dreams and heart are in creativeness, so arts and culture. Been doing this for a while, over 20 years, and started off as a promoter, doing a lot of events and content and things like that, branched off into the Twin Cities Black Film Festival. And this is, we're celebrating our 19th year,
Wow.
October 21st through the 24th of this year. And most recently launched Black Fashion Week Minnesota. This is our 4th year. And actually this week is Black Fashion Week. So we started on Thursday the 16th and it runs through the 25th. So yeah, we're right in the midst of it.
The question I want to ask is, we're just coming out of 2020. Last year was a conundrum for everyone, but especially events. So can you tell us how 2020 affected the normal things that you would typically do in a year here in the Twin Cities?
So to be quite honest, actually 2020 wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. In fact, I think we actually had more events during the pandemic that were virtual. And I did a lot of speaking engagements that were virtual than normal. And really, they were great paid events. And so for me, I think it was a good time to just sit back and reflect on what it is that I want to do and where I want to go and where I want to take my team. And I looked at it more as a pause to just really jump into what's going to happen for 2022, 2021. So it wasn't as bad for me. I think it was necessary to have that conversation, to have these things happen. It's super unfortunate we are in a pandemic and so many things happen, but really, if people would have used that time wisely, you would have sit back, reflect upon yourself. What can I do different? You know, where am I going with this? Look how it's affected my business. So all, entertainment especially. So in-person events didn't happen, but virtual events was something I had to learn, and I had to learn it quick.
Absolutely. So you were able to capitalize on that moment, use it to learn some new things, but also to find opportunity to bring your events into the virtual landscape.
Absolutely. And that was a whole different ballgame, something that we hadn't looked at before. But I think overall for the entire country, people thought about maybe Zoom is something that we can do, instead of sending people out, it's a way, it's cost effective.
Exactly.
So, it's like, that's one of the things that people thought about. But it did change in that, aspect.
Awesome. So you said you used the time to consider some new things. How can we maybe do things a little bit differently? So what can we expect this year from the Morrow Group, and specifically with Black Fashion Week Minnesota?
So Black Fashion Week Minnesota, it's a learning process each time. Some of the things I'm looking at is how are we selecting designers? How are we finding local Black designers in the Twin Cities? They are here. We did have, just for our first event, which was Thursday at the W, I had over 10 Black designers reach out to me and say, hey, how can we be a part of this? Where do we look? Who do we follow? And so that tells me that they're here. We just don't know. We had some from Rochester. We had some from St. Cloud. And so it tells me that they're spread out. And then one from Duluth. So they're here. It's just a matter of them knowing who we are. So doing better communication, better marketing, and that way we can, incorporate others from around Minnesota.
Absolutely. And so for Black fashion designers and Black folk that are in the industry within Minnesota, what advice would you give them if they're looking to get their work out there? Should they connect with the Morrow Group? What are the steps that they should be taking?
So I think the steps to take definitely is to, start the simple ways to communicate: Facebook, Instagram, tweeting, Twitter. TikTok actually is something that people do a lot, and I know fashion designers do that where they have some kind of something with their models and their clothing. But people that watch that, there's a lot. And then the second thing I would do is to really start to engage yourself into some of the different events. Be mindful of what's happening around your city and where there's an opportunity to fit, and go for those. Sometimes I've met even with Black fashion, if they're afraid or, oh, I've never done this, well, and that's okay. Take this as a learning process so that you're well prepared for the next time someone asks you to be in a fashion show. And so that's what we really had with this one. We had one person that didn't want to walk behind. Usually after you show your clothes, the designer comes out and walk. They didn't want to because they were just they were introverts. So it was like, okay, but at least you see what happens and you can work your way up to it. So I always take working with the Morrow Group, Black Fashion Week, Twin Cities Black Film Festival. It's a time for learning, and it's also a time for showcasing your talent.
Absolutely. I love your approach. I keep hearing this theme of learning. Use these opportunities to learn. And I think with the pandemic, a lot of people crumbled, when you're having a learning experience and you feel uncomfortable, sometimes people draw back. So I just love that you emphasize, use it to learn and keep going. And I'm going to assume that's why you've been doing what you've been doing for almost 20 years now.
Yes, because I think I want people to realize that we don't know everything. And even if people look at me and go, oh wow, you've done a lot, but I have, the blood, sweat, and tears that you put into it. And you don't see everything that I do behind the scene. It's a lot of work. And even just I was talking about today, up at 5:30 a.m., preparing and making sure that everything runs smoothly. That's with every event. So it's not as simplistic as it may appear. It's a lot of work, and you have to be passionate. If it's something that you want to do, you have to be passionate about it, because it's easy to give it up if it's not something that you really care for.
Right. Wow. So, talking about Black Fashion Week Minnesota 2021, what are some of the highlights? What are some of the things to look forward to?
So, after every Fashion Week year, we sit back to, try to figure out what's next, or what are people looking for. And, I really got a sense of understanding that, doing a Curvy Girl fashion show, which is what it was, it brought attention to all the plus size boutiques that we have here that are Black owned. And, even now, that was Thursday. For the last couple days, constant emails and messages on social media about how can we be a part of this, we want to do this, and they were so grateful that we used curvy models, and exactly what it made everyone feel like they were appreciated, that they were welcomed. And I think, to me, that's what makes me happy, because those are things we have to get over as Black people. And, also for us to, as Black people, to support other Black businesses. We can't stress that enough. I think that when we are, unified, it makes a huge difference to our community. So this is one way to really show that and be an example.
That's very, very exciting. So I want to talk about the Twin Cities Black Film Festival.
Okay.
Can you let us know when that will be happening this year and what to expect from that?
So the Twin Cities Black Film Festival is October 21st through the 24th. It will be at Radisson Red Hotel, downtown Minneapolis. What to expect, we have about 42 films. So we have a couple of, like 2 or 3 about mental health. We have a couple on Black Lives Matter, documentaries of different things that have taken place. We have all kinds of, we have ones about art. There's a little bit of everything. So we try to just go, and age range is from like 19 on up. So
wonderful.
We really try to pick a little bit of everything for people to see. We even have some on like post-traumatic stress after, giving birth. So there's a bit of everything.
Wonderful. Yeah, there's definitely a myriad of issues that we're talking about, right? That we're dialoguing about, especially coming out of 2020.
Yes, and that's the thing, and that's this is a perfect example of people, using that time wisely. Documenting things, still making films, still completing films during that time, and here, you get to see what has been made and invested in. So
that's amazing. And so you have so much creativity, so much drive. You talk about consistency, diligence. There's a lot of creatives out here, and there's many who haven't even really taken the first step. There's many who I'm sure have attempted to, like we spoke about earlier, and said, you know what, no. What advice would you give to our creatives, the creatives in our community, and especially young creators?
So my advice to creators, new and old, is to really stay focused. Be focused on what it is your final goal, because a lot of times, and even a person that has been doing it for a while, even today I was telling someone that really my main goal is to stay focused, because there's so many things that can distract you or just kind of catch you when you're not really thinking about business or being a creative, that can throw you off. But if you remember what your goal is, if you remember what that final thing is that you're working towards, that makes a difference, and you just have to keep moving and doing it. You may not get it the first time, like for an example, like grants, filling out for grants. We do have a lot of, grant money here that can help creatives, and I think a big thing is that, a lot of us don't know about them, don't know how to fill them out, and so don't bother with it.
Right.
But if you are really serious about it, take a class. There's so many resources for that. And if people want to, people always ask me about things like that, and I'll, kind of gear them in the right direction. Because a lot of opportunities come with the state, like to do different positions and jobs for creatives, like you see the murals that they're building on, painting on buildings.
Right.
Those kind of things. These people are either recommended or they find them, and then they, ask them to do these kind of things. You want to be prepared and ready. I think that's one of the things, because I've heard, younger creatives like, oh, someone asked me about doing this event, but I don't know if I'm ready, so I'm going to say no. Always do them. Try to, be honest, be upfront with whoever it is that you're working with, and still do it. Best way is like having the experience.
Right.
And you can't get any better unless you don't have the experience hands-on.
Absolutely.
So I always use a lot of, if they say, hey, I've never done this, okay, we'll walk through it, I'll help you with it.
Right.
And then we help them.
I love that. Do your research, do the work, and stay focused.
Yes.
So, what is next for the Morrow Group? Do you have anything new?
One of the ways that I am trying to continue what I'm doing is I'd like a movie theater. It would be the first Black-owned movie theater in Minnesota.
Wow.
And it would be like a boutique a boutique theater where they have like 50 to 75 seats.
Right.
But within that, there's ones that they have other things. So within mine, I'd like a coffee shop, a fashion house, and a space to educate.
Wow.
And it would be a space for people to rent out, to do events. It would be less than what normal people are charging, so that it's affordable for us. And I think that these are ways that we can get ahead of the game and own our blocks and own our businesses and our communities.
I love it. I'm excited. Thank you so much for joining us today,
Yes.
Natalie. I am sure that you've inspired our community. You've definitely inspired me, and I'm just super excited for all of the work that you're doing and for the impact that you're having through your businesses, but also as a person.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys for having me. And I thank the Spokesman-Recorder. You guys have been supportive throughout my career here, and can't say enough wonderful things about you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us today for What's Happening in Minnesota with the Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder. Okay, I think that's it.
How was that?
It was wonderful.
Oh, it was okay.